Good morning, Hank. It's Sunday. Today I'm going to tell you 5 reasons why I think the presidential election in Iran was fraudulent. But first we have to have an election of our own. Nerd fighters, the beard. Should I keep it or shave it? Vote in comments. I realize this isn't an important election, but unlike Iran, I will at least adhere to the results. Okay, Hank, so first 2 sentences of background on Iran. Iran is an Islamic republic, which means that while the position of president is important, it's not that important because ultimately Iran's domestic and international affairs are always decided by a council of religious leaders, which is led by the Ayatollah Khamenei. Every time Iran has a presidential election, like 37,000 moderates try to run for president, but they are barred from doing so, which has historically often led to low voter turnout because people don't show up to vote for guys they don't like. Okay, Hank, so a couple days ago Iran had a presidential election, and as you may know, the incumbent president of Iran is a guy named Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who, to use a somewhat technical political science term, is a bit of a douche nozzle. And in this election there were 37,000 moderates who weren't allowed to run, just like usual, but there were also 2 quasi-reformist candidates, including a former prime minister of Iran named Mir Hussein Moussavi. So on election day, a stunning 85% of eligible voters voted, and a couple hours after the polls closed, the Interior Ministry announced that Ahmadinejad was winning with 63% of the vote. Which, Hank, at least as far as I'm concerned, is just the little tiniest bit impossible. I maintain that Ahmadinejad and possibly Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei stole the election. Is that a fatwa I smell on me? Hank, I'm not saying that this election was invalid because a douche nozzle happened to win it. Douche nozzles win elections all the time, all over the world. What I'm saying is that there's just a lot of things that don't add up. Like, number 1, Tabriz. The reformist candidate Mousavi is from a city called Tabriz, and historically the city of Tabriz always votes for Mr. Mousavi or whoever the guy is from his ethnic group who's running. And yet, inexplicably, in this election, they apparently voted 2-1 for Ahmadinejad. I mean, Hank, it's the equivalent of John McCain winning Chicago. Reason 2, 2005. Hank, the last time Iran had a presidential election was in 2005, and even though a ton of people didn't show up at the polls because they were mad about their candidates not being on the ballot, Ahmadinejad, who was less crazy and more popular than he is now, still wasn't able to avoid a runoff. Which leads me to reason 3, turnout. The turnout in this election was ridiculously high by Iranian standards. And in the last 20 years, every time there has been high turnout, a reformist candidate has won. All of the pre-election polls indicated that the only chance Ahmadinejad had was if the turnout was extremely low. Number 4, superhuman counting. Hank, despite the incredibly high turnout, the Interior Ministry managed to announce the election results within like 2 hours of polls closing. Hank, they counted like 10 million more ballots 30 times faster than they ever have in the past. It's almost like they weren't counting them at all. And number 5, the possible acknowledgement. Hank, because the Iranian government has started to kick out foreign journalists and shut down websites, it's a little hard to get reliable information, even for people like me who have spent the entire day reading Iranian Twitters, link in the sidebar. But many people from inside Mousavi's campaign are reporting that the Interior Ministry called him to say that he had won the election shortly before that same Interior Ministry went on TV and announced that Mousavi had in fact lost the election. Hank, we still don't know the whole story about the elections. It's possible that somehow they weren't rigged, but I do hope that the government of Iran has the decency to honor the will of its people. As it says in the Quran, truly God does not guide those who transgress and lie. Hank, like I said, I have links in the sidebar to the Twitters of young Iranians who are tweeting through all of this. You often hear that nothing interesting can be said in 140 characters. Obviously the people who say that aren't following the young Iranian woman who just wrote, "If Iran sleeps tonight, it will sleep forever."